इल्ला इबादल्लाहिल मुखलिसीन, जो मुखलिसीन हैं वही कामयाब होंगे। अल्लाह ताला ये इस्राइल की बर्बादी तक, इस्राइल की बर्बादी तक.
More images of the devastation in the latest hot war between the Israelis and the Palestinians. More cities turn into ruins, more families disperse and turn into refugees, more death. And these aren't just faraway headlines from a millennia-long war. We're talking about real people being affected, innocent civilians being caught in the crossfires. And while all of this is going on, Americans are fighting among themselves. There's a roller coaster of opinions. Emotions are running high. Which side should the U.S. support, if either? And how should the U.S. government respond? There's major support on both sides of the conflict, although Israel has a major advantage because Israel has the backing of the U.S. government and the U.S. military, and the Palestinians aren't getting nearly the amount of support that the Israelis are getting. So let's talk about it. This is the Bicycle Podcast. Okay, so we've all seen the news clips. We've seen videos of the horrific carnage coming out of Israel this last weekend. We've been talking about it all week. Over 1,200 Israelis were killed. They were massacred, including babies. We have unconfirmed reports of babies being beheaded. We know women were raped and kidnapped over there. Hamas still has hostages. Close to 3,000 Israelis injured in this attack. And Israel immediately responded harshly. They responded with their Air Force, which is their best asset. They responded by bombing the hell out of properties in Gaza. And over 5,000 people in Gaza, 5,000 Palestinians, have been injured. 1,100 confirmed kills over there, and many of them civilians. And this is one of the complaints about what Israel is doing, because people are saying their response has been too harsh. But I'm going to get into the Israeli response in another video. Hamas was extremely well organized. They were well trained. If you look at some of these videos of what they were doing, they were organized in units. Their troops had very specific roles, very specific tasks. You can tell it was thoughtfully planned out. They knew exactly where to go, where the guards were, where the soft spots in the gates were. They had tunnels going in. So they knew exactly what they were doing and how to assault Israel. It's not like it was just a band of random guys who grabbed guns and started shooting. No, this was well organized. And this is one of the reasons why people think Iran is behind it, because they're saying those dumbass Palestinians and Hamas don't have the capability of carrying out a planned attack. You can look at their strategies, how they use their artillery fire and their rockets as cover for their paragliders. So under the guise of multiple rockets, because this is how they started the attack, by firing rockets, under those rockets you have the paragliders coming in. When these rockets first started hitting, they were getting the sirens in Israel. The civilians were hearing their sirens, but they were thinking, okay, this is just yet another rocket attack. They didn't think that 1,000 militants were about to cross in and attack them. They just thought they need to take cover from the rockets, and the Iron Dome is going to block most of the attacks. So they distracted them like that. And like I said, it was Yom Kippur. It was a major holiday over there, and a lot of people weren't even paying attention. People weren't watching the news, didn't have their phones on. They weren't online. So they knew that this was the perfect day to launch the attack. They came in, blew through some parts of the gates. Some parts they cut through. Some parts they used bulldozers and tractors to ram through this gate. As they killed a lot of the Israeli soldiers, they took their weapons, they took their ammo to restock. They were basically supplying themselves on the ground as they went. So as they killed people, invaded people's houses, there are videos of them eating and drinking from the people's fridges after they murdered them. Israel has allegedly one of the best intel agencies in the world. It's called Mossad, and people are wondering what the hell happened. What happened? You have MI6 looking at the situation, the guys over there in the UK. You got the CIA looking at the Middle East constantly, 24/7, forever. And you have Israel supposedly monitoring everything. So how the hell do these three alleged best intel agencies in the world completely fail when it comes to this situation? Allegedly, Egypt knew something was about to happen. We have reports coming out of Egypt saying that the Egyptians warned the Israeli government that something big was going to happen that weekend, and the Israelis ignored them, saying that nothing was going to happen because they were a bit too arrogant and a bit too comfortable, thinking that something like this could never happen. But now the Israeli government is saying that's an absolute lie. So we don't know exactly what happened. And when it comes to these intel agencies, we're never really going to know exactly what they knew. Some people are even speculating a cover-up. They're saying the Israelis had the information. They let this happen because they want to eradicate the Palestinians. They want to push them into Egypt, into Jordan, the hell out of Israeli land, and they want to take it all for themselves. And they just needed a massacre so they can justify war and genocide. This is what some people are saying. I don't know. Israel obviously is denying this, but Israel has responded by crushing Palestinian civilians. But Hamas, after their planned operation, they took a ton of hostages back to Gaza, including American hostages. We had Joe Biden talking about this, U.S. government talking about at least 25 American hostages have been taken. So we're wondering, is the American government going to get involved? What's the American military going to do? U.S. Spec Ops is probably already on the move. They already had operations over there in Egypt and other parts of Africa close to the situation to begin with. Plus, you got more American power coming in. So Spec Ops is probably going to get involved alongside Israeli Spec Ops, but we'll see what happens with that. And many of these politicians over here in the U.S., many of these politicians are thrilled with this. They're happy as hell that the U.S. military is making moves because this is what they want. I'm talking about these warmongering neocons. Let's take a look at two of them. Let's take a look at something that Nikki Haley had to say because she's completely lost her rabbit ass mind. And then let's look at Lindsey Graham.
All of this has happened in front of everyone, on top of thousands of rockets that hit Israel. This should be personal for every woman and man in America. Why? Because when they did this surprise attack, when they took these hostages, when they murdered these families, they were celebrating. And what were they celebrating? They were saying death to Israel, death to America. This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
Well, for every Israeli or American hostage executed by Hamas, we should take down an Iranian oil refinery. The only way you're going to keep this war from escalating is to hold Iran accountable. How much more death and destruction do we have to take from the Iranian regime? I am confident this was planned and funded by the Iranians. Hamas is a bunch of animals who deserve to be treated like animals. So if I was Israel, I would go in on the ground. There is no truce to be had here. I would dismantle Hamas. This is the best opportunity Israel has to destroy Hamas. Take it to the Iranians. If you harm one American in Syria by using your Iranian militia against us in Syria, if you escalate the war by urging Hezbollah to attack Israel in the north, if Hamas kills one American or Israeli hostage, we're going to blow up your oil refineries and put you out of business. It is now time to take the war to the Ayatollah's backyard.
Okay, so Nikki Haley is full of shit. Israel attack means America is attacked? Huh? What the hell is this lady talking about? Most Americans don't even know what the hell is even going on over there. They don't know who these people are. They don't know what the beef is between the Palestinians and the Israelis. They don't know who the hell Hamas is. They just hear politicians mention it time to time when they're trying to stir up war fever. And that's exactly what Nikki Haley's doing, because this is a common tactic these politicians use to drum up the fever of war in the American public. Look at these people over here being attacked. They're just like you. They're part of us. They're basically Americans. So look, all these people been killed. That means that you could probably be killed just like that. Therefore, let us spend billions of dollars with the military industrial complex and go wage war on third world countries or a bunch of terrorist organizations who have no chance at beating us but we'll drag out the war for years so we can keep getting paid. It's a common tactic. They're stirring up a lust for Palestinian blood in the United States so they can get support for their war. And this fool, Lindsey Graham, wants to bomb Iran, talking about bombing their oil fields. Are you crazy, man? You're trying to start a war with Iran? See, this is that arrogant ass mindset of these neocons. Blood money is the end game. War means cash, funding for the military industrial complex, which these politicians either receive donations from or they directly work for these people. They have relationships, like Nikki Haley. She was on the board of Boeing and lied about having associations with the military industrial complex during the debate. But it's all about getting that blood money for them. Let's cause a war. Let's spend millions of taxpayer dollars. Damn what's going on at home. Damn the border. Damn education. Damn healthcare. Damn the homeless veterans. Damn all that stuff going on in America. We need to take your tax money and we need to print more money to increase inflation in America so we can spend money going to war in the Middle East so we can get paid and we can get our partners in the military industrial complex paid. No wonder why Eisenhower didn't warn about this a long time ago. And I think it's pretty damn arrogant for them to just casually talk about starting a war with Iran. And they'll quickly say, well, the U.S. stands with Israel. We have to back Israel. That's our ally. Why? Most Americans don't know why. Why is the United States so zealous on protecting Israel? Why is the United States so gung-ho? You need to explain this to the American people. Help the American people understand what the hell is going on. What's the reason for this partnership? I talked in my last video, I talked about some reasons why the U.S. government, why politicians, and why certain voter blocs support Israel. But when you look at the average normie, they don't know what the hell is going on over there. All they know is some war is going on in the Middle East and some politician has convinced them that Israel is extremely important. Therefore, American money needs to go over there to Israel to wage war, and possibly Americans troops need to go over there and we need to spill American blood. And this hasn't been justified. America wants to support Israel. To what extent? How many American lives is it worth? How much more damage to the U.S. economy do these politicians want to do? Because the United States is $33 trillion in debt. The United States doesn't have any money to wage war. So if the United States wants to wage war, just like this proxy war in Ukraine, the United States has to borrow money from its future, which basically means print money and add it to the national debt. And when you print money, it increases inflation. So when you're saying we're supporting Ukraine, we're supporting Israel, we're sending warships over there, we're sending missiles, we're sending all types of aid over there. Well, the United States doesn't have the money for that. So it's printed because the United States receive a certain amount of money every year through taxes. But all of that money is eaten up through entitlement programs, Medicaid, food stamps, Social Security, entitlements like that. All of the tax money goes to that. So when the United States chooses to wage war, they print money and add to the national debt. And all of the efforts to wage yet another war. Haven't we been down this road before? Didn't George Bush them sucker us? Like 20 years ago, didn't George Bush them sucker us into going into Iraq saying, look what happened in 9/11. I know that you guys are feeling emotional about 9/11. It just happened. You guys are scared. So let me add to that. Let me pile on. If we don't go to war in Iraq, you're going to see mushroom clouds in America. If we don't go to war against this third world country, send troops over here to some country that you guys don't even know where it is, can't even point to it on the map. If we don't do it, if you guys don't allow us to pay our contractors and let us get a kickback, if you guys don't allow that, you guys are going to get nuked. So let us go to war or you'll get nuked. That's what George Bush them said. They said, if you don't let us go to war in Vietnam, some little country on the other side of the world you never heard of, this happened decades ago. If you don't let us go, then the Vietnamese are going to be fighting us in Los Angeles. This is pure manipulation. If we don't go to war right now in the Middle East, this is pure manipulation. These neocons constantly manipulate people and have people believe in this. If we don't go to war against third world countries right now and these terrorist organizations right now, we're going to be fighting them at home. They constantly say this. They just use this to justify more and more funding in Ukraine. If we don't stop Russia, that means Russia is going to take over all of Europe, and then the Russians are going to be in Alaska. And people believe it. So they wage all these wars. They get rich. American soldiers die. People come back maimed and injured. And it's one thing. If American soldiers die in the actual defense of the United States, that's one thing. If America is actually in real danger and American troops put their lives on the line, awesome. But when you want to wage these war for rich men, when you're waging wars against third world countries just so you can spend money in the defense industry, just so your guys can get paid, y'all get rich while poor Americans get maimed and killed over there, that's evil. That is a horrific thing. You started a war in the Middle East, in Iraq, on a lie. Thousands of Americans died, even more injured, while these rich politicians got even richer. And another big problem with just jumping off and starting wars like this is America's readiness. I've talked about this before. I've talked about America's military readiness. Some people don't like to hear it, especially people who want to believe that the United States is completely invincible. The United States can go anywhere in the world at any moment and completely destroy anybody with ease, which is not true at all. They don't want to hear it. So when I was talking about America's military readiness to go to war in Eastern Europe, people saying, well, you must be a Russian puppet. You're a Putin stooge. But there are problems with America's military readiness. They have problems with recruitment. You have people getting out of the military every year, so the United States needs to recruit a certain amount of people to replenish the amount they lose. And if you want to escalate war, you need to recruit even more people. But the military has gone completely woke, and a lot of people just want nothing to do with the military. And on top of that, people see how these politicians and rich people are just using the military to enrich themselves and not really in defense of America. Let's take a look at a couple of clips.
Hi, I'm Major Rachel Jones, and what pride means to me is celebrating that diversity is our strength as a nation and as an army. Pride means something very special to me as a LGBTQ individual, and it's a chance to show everyone what we have to offer in terms of the diversity.
It is important that we train and we understand, and I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what?
It begins in California with a little girl raised by two moms.
So this is what the United States is doing to convince people, young men, young military age men, to join the military. You got to deal with stuff like this. A lot of people are saying, no, thank you. And another major problem, which we're learning with the Ukraine war, is that America has issues with weapons production. So people are looking back decades ago, talking about World War II. Well, we were able to fight Japan. We were able to go over to Europe. And we were able to do all of that. We did. Yeah, but back then, the United States was supplying itself through its own government, plus several dozens of other organizations. But now the U.S. defense industry has been monopolized by a handful of major companies, and these companies are used to dealing with these third world country, Middle Eastern wars. They're not used to dealing with modern warfare, so they don't have the ability, they don't have the capability to surge in weapons production the way they need to. Like Ukraine is being outperformed by Russians just in firepower. Russia has way more artillery. In fact, Russia is producing way more weapons needed for these wars than all of NATO combined. It will take years of investment and a ton of money for the United States, for these defense contractors to be able to ramp up properly. They just can't surge. They're pushing to that max already. That's why Biden sent those cluster bombs over there, because he said, look, we don't have anything else to send them. And now you're being stretched more thin because you have to send weapons to Israel. Even though the United States gives Israel $4 billion a year already, they got to send more weapons to them. On top of that, Israel has been dropping so many strikes in Gaza that they've already run out of missiles, and they're asking the Americans for more missiles. In fact, America cargo ship just landed in Tel Aviv to give them more. But you have the Israelis asking for a ton of weapons. They're going to need a lot of artillery. And the Ukrainians are asking for more weapons. And the Americans were already being pushed to their absolute max with Ukraine. So now they got to supply Ukraine and Israel. So behind the scenes, there's issues going on with money and with weapons productions. People in Washington are coming to the realization that they can adequately supply both Ukraine and Israel and maintain their own weapon stockpile. So you're talking about provoking Russia into an ever escalating war in Eastern Europe, which could encompass all of Europe if things really pop off. You're talking about bombing Iran, starting a war with Iran, a country of 90 million people, an alleged modern military. Then you're saying South Korea, we're going to protect you because North Korea is starting to test weapons again, and North Korea is gearing up for war. We see Kim Jong-un and Putin meeting up. So you're going to protect South Korea. And then you're talking all this crap about China. Every chance these politicians get, they talk crap about China. The presidential debate, it was all China, China, China. So you're threatening China. If China does anything to Taiwan, you're supposed to jump in and protect Taiwan or allegedly supply Taiwan while Taiwan gets annihilated by China. So we're looking at the United States being involved in a possible 3 to 4 front war. Russia, Iran, North Korea, China, plus supplying Israel, plus fighting these third world countries over there in the Middle East and Africa. You think the United States can be stretched that thin and fight all of these countries like that, especially these modern militaries? That's not a good idea. And like I said, United States Spec Ops is probably already on the move because of those hostages and because the U.S. government's vested interest in protecting Israel. So you have the USS Gerald R. Ford, America's state-of-the-art, newest and latest aircraft carrier, already over there, sitting about 50 miles off the coast of Israel. And Turkey is unhappy with that. Turkey is an alleged U.S. ally, a member of NATO, but Turkey told the United States to get that aircraft carrier the hell out of there because Turkey is saying the U.S. is only going to use this aircraft carrier to commit atrocities in Gaza. Turkey is more pro-Palestinian. Turkey doesn't like Israel like that. But the United States doesn't care about that. The United States isn't worried about Turkey. The United States is sending another aircraft carrier. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower is on the way over there. So you're going to have well over 10,000 American troops in striking range of Hamas and these Middle Eastern third world countries. You have all this American muscle over there. You have all this might, the vaunted Israeli army and the Israeli Air Force, all of this to fight a ragtag terrorist group in a bunch of third world countries. I guess then there have been reports coming out of Israel that the Israelis were a little bit overrated because they were having trouble pushing Hamas out of Israeli territory. They were trying to push them back into Gaza and they were struggling. It seems like they've gotten them out now, but the first couple of days they were having a hard time with it. Israel is activating 300,000 reservists on top of the roughly 200,000 that they have already. Hamas has almost 50,000, about 46, 47,000 men. So Israel is looking for a 10-1, over 10-1 advantage to go against Hamas. And some people are saying Israel's army is a little bit soft and a little bit overrated, and Israel has to rely way too heavily on their Air Force. I've observed a couple of issues with the Israelis. They haven't integrated the use of drones into their doctrine. They haven't learned, it seems like they haven't learned from watching Ukraine and Russia how essential the use of drones are to modern warfare. They're showing their firepower. They're showing their capability. They have all these artillery systems just sitting there, all these rounds just sitting there. They have a bunch of tanks just all there piled up in one spot, not realizing that a drone could just come by and drop some munition, or you can have a kamikaze drone hit the ammo right there next to the artillery system, blow the whole thing up. You have all of these tanks clustered. A couple of drones come by, blow them all up, because when the fighting first started, another thing that Western media is not showing, when the fighting first started, Hamas destroyed several Israeli tanks. So you had Israeli soldiers on the ground fighting these guys. A lot of them were being killed. You had them taking cover behind cars and buildings. And while they were taking cover, Hamas drones were coming in and just dropping bombs on them. And they had a couple of tanks just charging into battle. No infantry support, no air support, no cover. Tanks was just charging in, and Hamas was just hitting these tanks with drones or anti-tank missiles. So I don't know, maybe Israel just thought that Hamas was completely trash like they were decades ago when they fought, but Clearly, Hamas has gotten better. They've been trained, and they seem like they're building themselves into an actual military and not just a bunch of guys with guns. So the Israelis need to use adequate tactics if they want to win this.
And like I said, a few hundred feet away, there is a field of tanks, and those tanks have their lights on. They are ready to go. They have their engines running. And so they're simply waiting for the order. And
having all your tanks just sitting idle, clustered there, not a good idea. But yeah, I'll be watching closely what happens on the ground over there, the performance of the Israeli army. We see their Air Force is softening up targets over there. The Air Force is bombing the hell out of all of Gaza, civilian areas, military areas. They're saying that Hamas uses civilians as shields, probably so. So they don't have a choice but to bomb civilian areas. But let's get back to some of the reaction at home. Mike Pence. It's crazy to think how this guy was the number 2, the second man in line to be president just in case something happened. He was pretty quiet while he was with Trump. He only talked when he absolutely had to, kept his conversations, public conversations, to a minimum. And I see why, for very good reason, because now that this man is running for president and he's opening his mouth, people dislike him every single time, dislike him more and more. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
This is what happens when we have leading voices like Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Ron DeSantis signaling retreat from America's role as leader of the free world.
The Hamas attack in Israel is Trump's fault and DeSantis' fault. So you're using a terrorist attack to boost your campaign, to boost your dead campaign already. Just give it a rest. Just go home already. Because what you're saying is absolutely ridiculous. DeSantis summed up Mike Pence pretty good really quickly. Let's take a look.
Mike Pence is attacking you for being what he on the issue of Israel, saying that this is what happens when we have leading voices like Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis signaling a retreat from America's role as a leader in the free world.
If Mike Pence wants to blame me for what's happening, I think that most people would just laugh at that. What a joke.
Would you eliminate?
So this guy's a joke, man. Pence is desperately trying to garner support from the Never Trumpers, from the people in the establishment who don't want someone like Trump in power, even though nobody even knew who the hell Mike Pence was until Trump picked him. You talk about disloyalty. I see what Trump means now, because Mike Pence is using a tragic situation to try to score political points, to try to say this is all Trump's fault. Trump's policies led to this, when everybody knows that that's not true. You think you're going to garner support from Republicans by blaming a terrorist attack on Trump. You can gain some praise and a pat on the back from Democrats. The Democrats would never, ever, ever vote for you. You can kiss their ass, but they're not going to vote for you. They'll pat you on the back and say, yes, it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. Even though they don't like you, they're going to discard you like they did Liz Cheney. But the Republicans are just going to dislike you more. What the hell are you doing? You're just committing political suicide. You were vice president for 4 years. You had your run. You were a governor. You were a congressman. Go to hell home. Enjoy all that money that you took as a neocon. And he's completely wrong on this anyway, trying to talk about Trump's policies. Because first of all, Trump blocked money to Hamas. He blocked money to Iran. He blocked money to Palestine because he knew what the hell they were doing. You give these guys money, a lot of this money is funneled up to the Hamas organization, and they just use it to conduct acts of terror like they just did. He knew that Iran was working with Hezbollah and Hamas, training them, using money. He criticized when Obama sent $1.5 billion over there to Iran, and Joe Biden just sent $6 billion over there. Trump was blocking money to Iran because he knew what they could do. Trump wasn't worried about Iran. Trump had Iran second guessing on what they would do. Remember, Trump killed Soleimani, that top general, second in command, whatever the hell his rank and position was, however you say his name. He killed this guy, this high-ranking Iranian guy, and bragged about it. The guy was on TV making up stories, laughing about it, talking about the spec ops had him cornered, and he was crying like a dog. He made a joke about killing one of the highest-ranking Iranians. And these Iranians wanted to retaliate so bad, but they were afraid because they didn't know what Trump would do or how he'd react. Trump met with Kim Jong-un twice. trying to work out some type of peace. He wasn't saying just shut up, give up your nuclear program, just do what we say. He said, look, I'll try to negotiate with these guys. I'll try to tell them how working with us could benefit them. Remember that time Trump was talking about North Korea has some good beach property. We can do a lot of real estate work up here. We can make some partnerships. You guys got a lot of potential. So he was trying to make negotiations to show ways that the U.S. and North Korea could work together instead of constantly being at odds. Trump met with Putin. He talked good about Putin because he understands that Russia is a major power and you don't want to incite a major war in Europe. Something that Biden didn't know about, something that those clowns in Biden's cabinet and Biden's handlers, national security team, those dumbasses, they had no idea. All they do is talk crap about Putin. Putin's a murderer, Putin this, Putin that. Like Nikki Haley, her favorite line, Putin's a murderer. Give us more money for our defense contractors because Putin's a murderer. But Trump tried to calm things down with North Korea. He tried to calm things down with Putin. He took money from Hamas. He took money from Iran. So what the hell is Mike Pence talking about? Trump's policies led up to this terrorist attack. But like I said, Mike Pence, just go home, man. So let's look at what Vivek had to say in response to this.
Please tell me what you are thinking, especially in light of the news that Mike Tobin of Fox News has brought to viewers today, just a few hours ago, that Israeli soldiers have finally made it into some of the attacked areas and have found decapitated infants.
I mean, this is inhumane. These are war crimes. And Israel's response should be decisive, as I expect that it will be. And the U.S. role here should absolutely be to stand with Israel diplomatically, intelligence sharing, going further and providing munitions where needed for Israel to preserve its national existence. Israel has a right to defend its borders. Israel has a right to defend its national existence. And the United States should absolutely be behind Israel as it does, while also making sure, and I think this is critical, that we do not see a broader war in the Middle East that would not advance U.S. interests. I think we can do both of those things effectively, and I do think it's going to take a cool-headed, rational, but decisive response behind Israel to make sure the right thing happens here.
Okay, let's talk about U.S. interests. Israel is the only democracy in the entire region.
That's correct.
Colonel Ralph Peters once said to me, Israel is the only democracy, the only smart-thinking nation between Greece and Australia. I mean, there's a huge area in between. That includes Russia, Iran, a lot of the Middle Eastern countries. But that's the interest that we have, that, I hate to say friend, because we know that countries don't have friends, they have interests. Mm-hmm. But don't you think that that means that forever and a day the United States needs to fund and support militarily Israel?
Well, I've said very clearly since day one and all along is that we will not cut off aid to Israel until Israel tells us they're ready for it. People say, what nation would ever say that? The one nation that said it was actually Israel when it was led by Bibi in the mid-1990s when it came to civilian aid. So that's how deep our relationship runs.
Civilian aid is different from military support.
Absolutely. And so the U.S. will not cut off aid to Israel until Israel tells us they're ready for it. But right now we have a much more serious emergency on our hands, and we need to talk about how to respond to that right now. And I do think that one of the careful things that we need to make sure of here is that we are supporting Israel. Israel is able to defend itself and its own borders, while at the same time making sure that does not lead us down the siren song of a road to a prolonged and extended, broader regional war in the Middle East. That is something that we should also be able to lead diplomatically to avoid. So I think intelligence sharing, diplomatic support, telling the UN its historical practice of equating a false moral equivalence between Israel's defense of itself versus the enemies that attack Israel, we're not going to stand for that. But at the same time, we have to take a leadership role that is sound and level-headed.
I want to get to the southern border in 1 second, but before we go on this, as we said, the USS Gerald Ford steamed very quickly to the region. It has arrived on Israel's shores. If it came down to it, if you were president and things got ugly, we've got at least four American hostages, 14 Americans killed by the terrorists. Would you put boots on the ground if it came to that?
Well, look, I think that part of America First means leaving no American left behind. And so I do think that there can be room for looking at various options to get our American hostages back home. Beyond that, I think our job is to stand behind Israel as Israel decides what its correct response is going to be. Historically, Israel has had some debates internally about whether or not they want control over Gaza or not. Those are pros and cons for Israel. That's a decision for Israel to make.
So Vivek, he's trying to tiptoe around it because Vivek has a certain position of America first. So Vivek doesn't like the idea that the United States sends about $4 billion a year to Israel. On top of that, the United States is sending even more money over there. It's sending military power over there to support Israel. Vivek is like, you guys are spending all this money doing all of this and that, but we have problems at home. We have problems with the border. We have problems with the cartels. Where's the priority? So Vivek wants America's priority to be America. He wants Israel to stand on his own 2 feet. But he's understanding the political climate with the donors, with the Uniparty, with the evangelical voter bloc, with a lot of people who want to support Israel still. He understands the political climate, so he has to talk about supporting Israel right now and say, well, maybe in the future, Israel is standing on his own 2 feet, won't have to get them billions of dollars. But at the same time, Vivek is trying to say, let's put America first. If we want to send all this money to Israel, how about we spend money at home first? How about if you guys want to send $4 billion a year to Israel, let's make a deal. You send $4 billion over there to Israel, give us another $4 billion to use to help homeless veterans and to help secure the border even more efficiently. But it's crazy that even somebody like Vivek, even as he stands as an independent thinker, he usually doesn't go along with the neocons. Even somebody like him is pulled into this, let's support Israel no matter what, spend money, send military power over there, wage war in the Middle East. Because these Israelis and the Jewish population in the U.S., they have such a hold on the U.S. government. These Jews hold major political power through lobbying. You have dozens of congressmen and senators who are Jewish, and a lot of these guys have dual citizenships in Israel, which I think shouldn't be allowed at all. You should not be allowed to serve in the U.S. Congress while you have a dual citizenship with Israel or any other country, because now your loyalty becomes questionable. U.S. citizenship only. If you want to be in Congress, renounce your citizenship for whatever country. But as it currently stands, they have a lot of lobbying power, a lot of political power, a lot of political loyalty. So Vivek has to jump on board. And all of these other neocons, they're just itching for war anyway. They're beating the war drum. So they're ready for it. But America isn't 100% pro-Israel because there's a lot of Palestinian support. In fact, there's Palestinian support in Congress. You got the Squad. You got, what's her name? Ilhan Omar. She was talking trash about Israel and the Jews a few years ago. The Republicans were outraged about it. They wanted her censored. Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House. She didn't want to do it because this high-mind Democrat allegiance, they support each other, defend each other, even when they say horrific things. So she was being pretty anti-Semitic. She didn't say anything harsh, as she said in the past. After this attack, she only tweeted, we need peace on both sides. And people attacked her because they're saying, no, there shouldn't be any peace. There needs to be war. Israel needs to attack Hamas, needs to mobilize, and we need war in the Middle East. So calling for peace right now is a crime, apparently. It's a political crime anyways. And her partner, Rashida Tlaib, she posted on Twitter basically praising the Palestinians and saying this is because of the apartheid style systems. The Israelis are at fault. They're evil, all this and that, but she's deleted it. But let's take a look at this picture that she has. So outside of Rashida Tlaib's office, well, first of all, on her door, she has a UAW, the United Auto Workers sign, because they have a strike going on over there, even though Democrat policies have a lot to do with this strike. But outside of her door, the first flag that she has, Palestinian flag. Then she has the, what's that, city of Detroit and the state of Michigan flags in the middle. And of course, the gay flag. Of course, you got to have that. But the flag in the most prominent position, her true loyalties, Palestine. And where the hell is the flag of the United States of America? So you're sitting in a federal congressional office. You're a federal congresswoman, but you don't have a flag of the United States. You have a flag of Palestine outside of your office. Where are your loyalties? See, this is what I don't understand about these people. They come over here to the United States, talk all this trash about the United States, put up flags of some other country or place that wants to be a country, put up flags of these places, but they stay in the United States. Why the hell are you even in the United States? Is it because you're getting paid? Is it because you're making $180,000 a year as a congressperson, and then you're getting all this sweet lobbying money and all the riches that you're getting from these political donations? So you're just over here to make money, to enrich yourself, even though you don't really like the United States like that. And maybe you don't really like the living conditions of women over there in Palestine. So you want to come over here to the United States, make money, do what you want, but then talk trash about the United States while praising Palestine. And like I said, she posted all that crap, praising Palestine, supporting Hamas and all that, but then she deleted it. And people in Michigan are still voting for this lady. You have a lot of leftists online. If you look on Twitter, you look on TikTok, Instagram, a lot of people are supporting Palestine. Even people that the Palestinians wouldn't even like these queers. There's this picture going around, this viral pic about queers for Palestine, not knowing that if they went over to Palestine, they will be executed for being gay. But a lot of people are praising them because a lot of people just hate the United States. And we have protests going on all across the country. We got people marching down streets with Israeli flags, Palestinian flags, going at it. People marching down in New York City, Chicago. There was a protest over there in Tampa, Florida, where they got into a fight. Police had to break it up. And these other protests, they're getting pretty heated, getting close to fights. So all of this is going on. People are worried about these other countries on the other side of the world. They're worried about decades-long wars. Where are the priorities for the United States? Where do these people's loyalties lie? Then you have BLM, BLM, that trash organization. BLM, the organization that made money off the blood of dead black men. BLM, the organization that was founded by a bunch of lesbian communists. The one who were praising Marxism, the idea of Marxism. BLM, the people who collected donations from guilty white people and dumbasses. All these companies, hundreds of companies, millions of people praised BLM, sent money to them, billions of dollars to this organization like a bunch of jackasses, and got hustled. BLM didn't do a goddamn thing to help black people. They didn't set up scholarships. They didn't try to do anything to reduce crime, to increase education levels in these black neighborhoods, to build up black businesses. They didn't do a goddamn thing. They just waited for a black man to die at the hands of a white person, and then they held out their hands to collect money from dumbasses. But this BLM organization, let's take a look at what they tweeted. So look at this. This is the paraglider, the guys who came in, swooped in from Gaza with guns, and they came in and killed all those people, like the people who were at that music festival. And you can see the paragliders coming in the background, and they slaughtered them, killed over 200 people. So BLM, they posted a paraglider, got the Palestinian flag on top. I stand with Palestine. At the top it says, that is all, that is it. So this trash BLM organization, which was nothing but a grift, had companies like Starbucks posting it on their Instagram profile pics. The NBA, full of dumbasses, put Black Lives Matter on their courts. So while you're trying to watch a basketball game, you got to see BLM insignia. This is what BLM is, and this is what BLM has always been. A trash organization, nothing but a grift, making money off of dead black men, enriching the people running the organization while not doing a goddamn thing for black people. And these people think they have some type of solidarity. These people, these far leftists, think they have some type of solidarity, these extremists, because they're saying, okay, the Palestinians are being eradicated by the Israelis, and allegedly black people are being eradicated by white people in America, so therefore they have common cause, even though that's not true at all. I would love to see the faces of all these jackasses who gave money to this grift, who got hustled, who sat there and tried to tell people, if you didn't support BLM, you must be racist. All these people who changed their Facebook and Instagram profile pics to BLM, all those people who went out praising BLM, saying this is a good thing. Look at this. They're supporting terrorists. BLM is supporting a terrorist organization. A picture of a Hamas militant who gunned down innocent civilians. This is who BLM is. So we have division on both sides. A lot of people in America support Palestine. Some people support the terrorists and are happy with what they saw. But the U.S. government, U.S. military, and most Americans are supporting Israel, and that's not going to change anytime soon. And we have these extremists like Nikki Haley, Lindsey Graham, and then some of the neo-libs too, who just want war so they can make money. So we're going to continue to follow the situation and see what unfolds. So if you enjoyed today's episode, leave a like, share it, and I'll see you guys next time.